This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Tragedy. I am your co-host, JP John Paz from the Two Man Power Trip. And of course, joining me, the Baldy himself, Angel Medina, and the Dad Bod God, the Dad Bod Destroyer, Piers Austin. What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
I love his voice, man. WENBC. It's just he's got that most awesome voice. Yeah. I'm doing good, man. I mean, hey, man, I'm thankful today is a good day. It's the first show for 2020. Is it the first show for 2022, I think? Is it?
No, we released one already.
Okay, well, second show for 2022. Starting the year off right. Supposedly, perhaps, probably my daughter has COVID, so I'm just trying to get her taken care of. So, but luckily, I caught the beast, the monster, the big dog a couple years ago. So, I'm feeling great, man. But I am taking my vitamin water, my supplements, saying my prayers, taking my vitamins, believing in myself, and keep pushing forward. But again, that's just what's going on in my life. Pierce, you had a good day yesterday or today or
Yeah, man. No, just hung out with a mate today. Pretty much had a happy New Year's by the pool, swimming around, having a Barbie, mate, and drinking down a few White Claws as I do. So it was quite a nice time off. What about you, John?
Pretty nice, pretty relaxing. Didn't really do much. Don't really, because of the kids, there's not really much partying going on, but nice, relaxing atmosphere, some good stuff. Just catching up with the kiddies, doing whatever they love to do. They love to do the puzzles and the iPads and the video games, so just some fun stuff with them. But as for today, case number 91, the greatest pay-per-view of all time, Heroes of Wrestling, aka the worst pay-per-view of all time.
Dude, I think with the Heroes of Wrestling, I think Pierce would have been an excellent commentator because the whole show was the shit, and I would have been giving it the proper the chocolate on top of that.
Nice one, Angel.
There you go. Well, anyway, man. But yeah, man, Heroes of Wrestling, man. One of the worst pay-per-views in history. October 10th, 1999. Attendance was like what 2,300 people at this casino. Very interesting. But before we go any further, Pierce, you didn't stop me in this situation. Let's do these sponsors, man. Hello.
All right, Angel, take it away.
No, I ain't doing that one.
Healthvape.com, ladies and gentlemen, is your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive and chemicals, and they are vitamin infused. So check out healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase, baby.
Absolutely. Definitely check out sleeps.com, one of the greatest websites I've ever been to, man. It has all the wrestling, all the sports accessories that you need in life, from the gridiron to the lacrosse field to the soccer field. Definitely use promo code MWAPOD for 10% off. Definitely check out the dirty boxes. I think that's what leads me to that website because I love their dirty boxers. But definitely check them out, sleeps.com. Again, promo code MWAPOD for 10% off. Tell them Wrestling with Tragedy sent you. Tell them Piers Austin sent you. Tell them John Paul sent you. And you get an additional, not just kidding. You just get 10% off. Check them out.
So, guys, this wrestling card it was stacked as far as the talent that it had on it, right? Some pretty big names. And the matches weren't all bad. I think we looked through the matches, and I think what stands out is obviously the Jake stuff, which we'll get to, I'm sure, later on down in the show. But the start of the show, Gordon Soley was supposed to be commentating the show. And, before the show happened, he fell ill. And, he later passed away, I think, months later. And the guy that they had replace him was Joey Roppelbloom or something.
Rosenblum.
Randy Rosenblum.
Randy Rosenblum.
Rosenblum, yeah.
Where did this guy come from? Because I couldn't find any information on who this guy is and what he did after this.
Rosenblum was, basically he was just like a commentator for, I think it was another sport. He was not really familiar with the business. Again, Gordon Soley was supposed to be the commentator at the time. but unfortunately he had some issues with his throat cancer, which I think he was diagnosed at the time. And then that's who replaced him. So it had to be Rosenblum and Dutch Mantel. Ugh, I
Good
hate
boy.
that word. Yeah, it's like
He
it's
was
like
a play-by-play voice for NBC on 3 Olympic Games.
yeah, I mean, yeah, like it was something that he was not familiar with the pro wrestling aspect of. I mean, he was calling drop kicks flying leg kicks or something like that. He just didn't have any. Again, what was that guy just in WWE? John Paul's, I keep forgetting his name.
Mike Adamle.
Yeah, Mike Adamle, American Gladiators, used to be with in the NFL. Didn't know shit about pro wrestling, but he tried.
And that's the thing, man. Like to go on a commentary booth like that, even with a knowledge of pro wrestling, is hard. To go and do it with like minimal to no knowledge about pro wrestling, that would be extremely difficult. And you got to like making a few mistakes. Like, can you really blame him for making those mistakes though? Like,
Not
I mean, like as a professional, he should have gone and had his notes and everything all planned. But at the end of the day, like, was he prepped well? Like,
Well, it's all about presentation. And I think if they would have just been very honest in the beginning of the show, saying, "Hey, thank you for coming on. Unfortunately, Gordon Soley was supposed to be one of my colors commentators. We have Rosenblum, who stepped up to the plate. He's not he's not familiar with pro wrestling, but he will definitely shed his light on the sport. You know what I mean? Like trying to set up instead of saying like he was a guru in pro wrestling. Then they set him up for failure. But if you tell him he's novice and he's just there just to ask questions, understand the sport, it might bring a different spin to it and a different interest. I mean, John, do you think so? I'm sorry, good.
Well, I think that it's always a mistake when you bring in a guy and he doesn't really know much, but they're like, "Oh, you did another sport. You can come into wrestling." It never works out that way. Like we mentioned, Mike Adamle, WB makes the mistake all the time. Adnan Virk, a guy from sports. Oh, maybe he's a fan or maybe he likes wrestling, but they don't transition well to wrestling unless they have some experience under their belt. I mean, man, you just throw this guy out there. And yeah, he may have done the Olympics and he knows sports, but he knows nothing about wrestling. What a big mistake, especially replacing Gordon Soley with him. Big mistake.
Well, yeah, but they had to. I mean, they couldn't get anybody else, and I'm surprised they didn't get anybody else. There was always a plethora of other commentators out there, but I think, and again, you can't say they wanted to face what
you could have had Dutch and
Captain Lou.
Captain Lou do it just as a 2-man team. Like he wasn't needed, but let me ask you like this. What if they started the show differently, saying, "Hey, Gordon Soley was going to be here today. Unfortunately, couldn't be here. However, we've got, multi-Olympic, commentator such and such. So you're putting him over coming from another sport. It's acknowledging it. So fans aren't already going to shit on this guy because by saying, oh, he's not very knowledgeable. You're putting him over for the world he comes in and then have him in that role where you've got Captain Lou and Dutch commentating and calling what's going on in the ring. And he's like sitting there adding that little bit of flavor, like asking questions going, hey, that submission hold, Dutch, like what damage could that do to the lower back, blah, blah, blah. And then that sort of gives information to then sell the Dutch to sell the move a bit more and go from there.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That is like a teeter-totter thing. I mean, just because he doesn't know pro wrestling, he could do it in that aspect, it's a different viewpoint from somebody else. And then of course Dutch would definitely just carry the ball and say, yeah, what is that move called? That's phenomenal. Oh, that's known as a drop kick, very, very effective move, to get your opponent off guard. So, I mean, you kind of flow with it. You play that back and forth tennis,
Absolutely. Would have been smart to kind of maybe lead on Dutch or lead on Captain Lou or something and have him kind of be, almost reverse it a little bit. He almost be the color guy asking questions. You don't want an Art Donovan situation like King of the Ring 94 where they're asking all these dumb questions. How tall is this guy? How much does this guy weigh? You don't want those crazy, stupid questions. But
how many rats did he sleep with?
That would be a good one.
But what's funny is that this whole show was a massive, massive cluster from the beginning. I mean, from production, from the they were supposed to have a meeting prior to the pay-per-view to get everybody set up, but of course, flights and people not showing up on time was really like they were showing up right at like maybe that day or hours before the show started, so they was not able to set things up appropriately. I'm not saying that they could have. It's just that again they were on the fence in regards to getting things set up. So it's unwinding real rapidly around that time.
Yeah. And I think as well, like it had like something like 28,000 buys.
29. It was
Okay.
29,000. You know,
which was below expectations. They wanted at least 40, and they were going to run, I guess they're going to run a couple of these things, and they were hoping to get 40, 40, 40, or just, kind of keep growing. But 29 was a bit low, very low.
well,
But
they wanted to jump on the bandwagon of the pay-per-views during that time because it was ECW, ECW, WWE at the time. I want to say WCW too. Yeah, WCW. And it was like one of the most pay-per-views during that time frame, that era. So they wanted to be, in the mix of things. So of course, yeah, absolutely. They had other future plans to have other pay-per-views, but of course this one went down the shitter.
so this is October 10th, 1999. Wrestling is really hot. I mean, super hot right now, especially WWF. Scorching hot. Obviously, ECW is doing okay. WCW is kind of more towards the downswing as Bischoff just got fired. Russo comes in. It's kind of towards the downswing, but still not terrible. So you would almost think like just because the business was so hot, it would do better just by being wrestling during this time period. But I guess people didn't want to maybe see a lot of those older names, or maybe they were all kind of past the prime a bit. But still, I don't know. You kind of would expect better than 29,000 just because wrestling was so damn hot at this point.
But let's look at the. Oh, sorry, Angel. I was just going to say, let's look at the names like that was on this card.
Well,
Samoan.
Well, before you,
sorry.
But I was going to ask you, Piers, real quick question, and I know you're not from the U.S., but why start a pay-per-view in a casino? What made them? I know they're doing the Trump Towers, and Caesar Palace, whatever the crap there. But again, why start your pay-per-view in a casino? Before we go into the card, what's your opinion?
Because it was in Vegas, correct?
It was in Mississippi. It was St. Louis, Mississippi, Bay St. Louis. So I just didn't understand why that specific location, and was it a good idea to do it there? It reminds me of the UWF.
Yeah, I reckon there was probably some underground shit associated with it.
Okay.
Like you're not going to get like a huge attraction of people either. I mean, it's only 2,300 people are there. Sometimes with these venues, it's like, oh, the people just walking through. Like sometimes you see smaller MMA shows running in a casino, and you're just kind of like walking by. You're like, oh, I guess I'll check this out. I don't know. It's not like
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's not like a great venue to do a show, but it's I don't know. It kind of depends. You got to have some name value attached to it if you're going to do it. Like UFC or WWE, when they run, big casinos or big venues attached to casinos. This is almost like, okay, the Casino Magic venue in Mississippi. It's like, all right, I don't know how many people you're going to draw. It just didn't seem like smart unless Fostone Productions had some sort of connection to Mississippi and connection. Maybe they got the venue really cheap, and maybe somehow they worked out some deal with the casino. Otherwise, I can't really see why they would want to do it there.
I'm just trying to find who I'm looking up the casino, and it's owned by Gaming and Leisure Properties, but I want to look back at who owned it at the time and see if they had any connection to the underworld, because I had the feeling this was run by someone who's either like a massive money mark who just wanted to a Tony Khan of 1999. You know what I mean? Maybe it was Daddy Khan, dipping his toe in back then. But
Piers thinks Sam Giancana is going to be involved in the in behind the scenes. That's mafia.
I'm just saying, it's a potential, man. Why would anyone do business with a casino? You know what I mean? Is it going to draw people? That could be a massive thing. B, could it be because it's a way to work out something seedy underground? Or C, it's just the spot to have it where they could do it.
Well,
maybe other places said no.
Well, you can't really knock it. Why that casino? Because then you start thinking okay, when the Caesar Palace, WWE was there. I mean, but of course, Trump is a very he's a very what's the word I'm looking for? A marketing type of guy. So I mean, they promote the shit out of it. So the Caesar Palace gimmick really went well. But maybe when was the WWE's pay-per-view for the Caesar Palace happened? Because this happened in '99. Was it before or after?
94.
So maybe they thought like, hey, they did good. Maybe we can knock it out the park in the casino. That could be.
Yeah, that's another possibility.
Yeah. But anyway,
I'm just throwing out different.
No, it's fine. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we'll never know what the reason was, but I mean, we want to see where they came up with the idea. Like, hey, they did well. Maybe we could do well here. Sometimes you need an example or a platform to go off of and be like, hey, let's just follow their format because it looks like they were successful. But anyway, go ahead, Piers. You were talking about the card. Let's go off that.
Yeah, man. Look, the card. You want me to go through match by match first, and we can discuss it, or what do you want to do?
Well, let's talk about the people who declined to be on the pay-per-view, which was Terry Funk, Vader, Bam Bam Bigelow, and Honky Tonk Man. They were approached, but they were like, I ain't doing it. What do you think?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, Sid couldn't because he was in WCW. They wanted Sid too. Was the big story.
I figured he was playing softball, but Piers. So, what do you think? Why? Everybody. What do you think? Why they did? They said no. Was it a gut feeling? Were they too busy? Was it like it was not beneficial? Not enough money? What?
I think it was probably it wasn't going to be beneficial for him. And I look at it like this way because you said who was the people? It was Vader, Bam Bam Bigelow, Terry Funk. So
Honky Tonk Man, Nick Bockwinkel, who did not appear. He was supposed to be there.
Okay, so look at what it is. It's heroes of wrestling. They're probably thinking this is like a one-shot deal. It's just a bunch of marks. 1999, Bam Bam Bigelow was still like I think on WCW and ECW in that transition.
Just signed to WCW late '98. So he started his feud with Goldberg in February. Well, really in '98, but his match with Goldberg was at Super Bowl. So it was February of '99. So at this point, he's signed for WCW kind of for the long haul. He's there from late '98 till 01 when they closed the doors. So Bigelow was signed up. I'm sure they would love to have him, but he was signed up. Sid was signed up. Funk was about to sign.
Gotcha,
yeah, I mean that's a possibility. Or they looked at it and go, "Man, I don't want to be on this fucking like desperate fucking like old man fucking like throw these guys a bone type of show." Maybe that's the way that they felt. They looked at this sort of type of show. I don't know. Is that a possibility, Yankee?
No, it's a possibility, man. I mean, again, everything we were saying is just speculatory. I wish we had somebody we could really like who was there that could give us the behind the scenes situation in regards to that, But like you said, Piers, I mean, I could see it,
I mean, look at the card. Like, okay, so the opening match was the Samoan SWAT team, Samu, and the Samoan Savage with Paul Adams and Seeker. Paul Adams, like he cuts a promo at the start of this show, which is kind of like a generic heel manager promo. Like, it did its job. Like he seemed like he was a good talker. They defeated Marty Jannetty and Tommy Rogers, which to me seems like a bit of a unique tag team, though. No,
I mean, Fantastics, a little bit of the Rockers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they both two teams that had a similar style. I mean, Tommy Rogers I worked Tommy Rogers in my first match in ECW in Allentown, PA. It was awesome. It was smooth. I mean, that guy was an awesome worker. I mean, I'm sorry that he passed away, man. He was a good dude, But for me, I mean, I don't know behind the scenes with other people, but he always treated me right. Great worker. But yeah, I mean, I could see them complimenting each other in the ring. Yeah. But I heard it was a drizzling shits.
The match was not good. Craig Valentine with sensational Sherry.
It's actually surprising though, because all those guys are good. You know what I mean? It's just.
But that's the thing. Sometimes when you have like guys that are good, they just don't flow. You know what I mean? They just don't flow together. It's kind of like
they may not give a shit. The heroes of wrestling, they may not give two shits.
But sometimes it's just the environment, man. It's just how sometimes if you're not feeling it, sometimes if you're not, wrestlers are weird, man. If you don't take care of the boys, it's almost like going to a restaurant when you first get that first plate, the appetizer. If the appetizer is not, the bomb or off the chain, everything else just falls. It's the expectation basically. It's just maybe something happened that day was just not feeling it, or it just didn't flow. I mean, it was a cluster. They didn't have the time to go over that match to set things up right. I don't know. Just many variables in regards to that.
Yeah, I mean, I can sit there and agree with that. Next, Greg Valentine with sensational Sherry defeated George the Animal Steel. That was like 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Yeah, look, it was what it was. What do you guys think of the match?
George Steele is so, I don't know, old and past his prime at this point. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? He's been a road agent for WWF since like the mid '90s, earlier '90s. So it's like at 99, and his prime was basically the '70s and the '80s. It's like he's going to be wrestling at 99. I don't know, a little bit off. And obviously Valentine's pretty old at this point too. I know Valentine was wrestling even maybe a few years ago, so he
Yeah.
would still do a lot of the indie shows and stuff. But it just feels like, man, both these guys way past their prime, way older, not in the greatest shape in the world. I don't know, just one of those things where you just throw the name out there for nostalgia reasons.
But to be honest with you, I mean, and I'm not knocking George Steele. I think George Steele is a great worker, but his wrestling style was not the most scientific wrestler.
Right.
Most aerial. He was more of a, I want to say a brawler. I mean, I wrestled him. I mean, he's more of a scratch your eyes, grab you by the head, hit you on the turnbuckle, shoot you to the ropes, give you an elbow, pick you up, body slam you. You know what I mean? Get you in a headlock. You know what I mean? It's just basic, wrestling 101. Nothing bad. I mean, he's supposed to play this non-intelligent individual. So of course he's not supposed to be that type of person. But so I could see him still performing like that because he doesn't really have much to do. You know what I mean?
Yep. But it just seems like, wow, like these guys are way past their prime. What are you guys doing? I know it's the heroes of wrestling, but typical just nostalgia act here.
But it's funny. Like I said, when I wrestled him, it was lock up, walk to the turnbuckle.
Where are you wrestling George Animal Steel at?
I think it was in Jersey. It was Jersey.
What year?
In the 90s. I want to say 95.
Was it for New Jack City Wrestling?
No, because I know Johnny was running it because Johnny was in the
Dapper
back.
Johnny?
No, Johnny Rods.
Oh, Johnny Rods. Oh, wow, okay.
And I know Sheik was back there because I know Sheik's ankle was all jacked up and he had that big old hernia belly button sticking out because I was looking at it like, what the fuck? And it was basically a lot of old school guys there. And it was at a hotel banquet hall because remember it was chandeliers and the guys were like, yo, be careful when you suplex because you might hit your foot on the chandelier. And so it was inside of a banquet hall. It was a good show. It was a good packed house, but it was a lot of old school guys, like the Slaughters and stuff like that. So like our batch was real simple. I mean, like I said, he could get me to the ropes, choke me on the ropes, all that stuff. So again, I mean, I'm not knocking his style. It's just a basic brawler, beast style,
It fit the gimmick.
Yeah, that's just what he was known for. You think I'd even put me in the hanging chicken wing because he would probably broke my shoulder. Fuck that shit. I hate that gimmick. I think that's hard to do. It seems painful, regardless or uncomfortable. Maybe I could do that when I come to New York, John Paz. We could try it out, see how that feels.
You want John Paz to put you in that hold? I'm sure he can do it.
You think you can lift me up in the air, hold me in the chicken wing?
Man, I reckon John Paz has got some crazy, strength.
I get you in the Bob Backlund style crossface chicken wing. I can do that.
I think the only way you could do it if you jump up, I jump up and hook my legs around your thighs to hold myself in position.
Yes. Hey, that's
well,
good.
Guys. We'll keep your bedroom talk till after the show. But moving on to the next match, to me, I think this was the match of the card. Like for me, honestly, Too Cold Scorpio defeating Julio Fantastico, who is Julio De Niro.
Yes, very good. This was almost like, wow, this doesn't fit on here. These guys, Scorpio obviously could still go. He still could go today. He's still pretty damn good wrestler. I mean, he's pretty much in his prime in 99. He's great. De Niro is kind of coming into his prime. Definitely was a good indie wrestler up until that point. I remember seeing him all over the place in New Jersey thinking, wow, this guy is good. Like he's excellent, just worker. He knows what he's doing. And this almost didn't fit the card. It's like, wow, I know you could say heroes of wrestling, maybe Scorpio, but Fantastico was like this young upstart. And it was like, wow, this probably should be on a WCW or ECW pay-per-view. This was a good match. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it was the match. I mean, even Meltzer was just like, he put it over. He said it was one of the top matches in there. I mean, but it's kind of hard. I mean, again, I'm not knocking the card. I mean, but due to the cluster that everything was happening, it stood out from all of them.
Yeah, almost didn't fit.
You know what I found interesting is like that. Too Cold Scorpio comes to the ring with a WCW replica belt. I'm like, what the fuck? And it's like they don't acknowledge it. And I just thought that was like one of the most random things ever.
I didn't
Because,
quite get that either.
but you know how it is, man. If a promoter says, "Hey, take this out with you," and you're gonna be like, "Fuck, all right, whatever." You know, if it's his show. Fuck it, he's paying me. I'll do it. You know, so I don't know what was his reason. What was I didn't even hear the comment. What was the reason they said it? Like, oh, here comes the WCW champ or whatever. How did they present
No,
it? Or
they didn't
They
say
no
anything.
sold it. Yeah, they kind of like no sold it.
so basically, he just walked out with a belt.
Maybe just to
But
make
bro,
himself look like he's more important. Yeah.
but
Okay.
bro, his ring attire, the fucking purple rain outfit, the print shit, that I fucking popped for that.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, Two Cold is a very flamboyant person. I love him, man. He's a good dude. I've wrestled him many times.
You know, it's supposed to be Reckless Youth, Tom
Yeah,
Carter instead of Julio, but he was signed by WWE Developmental, so they couldn't use Reckless Youth, so they had to go back to the Indies, find another good indie worker like Julio De Niro, aka Julio Fantastico, and they used him instead, but could have been Reckless Youth in there.
you know, it's funny. I mean, I know I'm going off topic, but it's just weird that the guy who was hell of a talent. I mean, me and him never crossed paths. I used to just see him in the wrestling magazines, and we just never crossed paths on the road. But I mean, he was always put over by the boys. His matches were always 5-star matches, and for all the people, I don't know. I don't know why he didn't. I'm not saying he didn't make it. It was weird that I didn't see him in the big major companies after that. After the developmental gig.
It's almost
But
like poor timing. Like if Reckless Youth had came a few years later, I know he was in Ring of Honor, but he was kind of the technician. Tom Carter's a little bit different, and he had a full-time job that he was doing, so he was kind of only doing wrestling part-time. But it's almost like he's a little bit bigger than Bryan Danielson, but it's like and a little bit different style. He was more of high flying, but it's almost like wow, if he came a few years later like Danielson did, I think he would have kind of blew up and gotten bigger. But it was like he wasn't quite big enough, he wasn't quite small enough. He was kind of right in the middle, but he was an awesome worker. It almost was poor timing on his part just when he
like
came up because I remember seeing him on the New Jersey indie scene all of a sudden, like, this guy is better than everyone else. You could literally tell, like, okay, this guy is awesome. I know Quackenbush was good and
I was
Lance,
going to say that
yeah,
Quackenbush. Yeah.
and Lance Diamond, aka Simon Diamond, was good. And you had a bunch of other
Cheetah
guys.
Master,
Yep, a bunch of good guys.
but he
Ace
broke his
Starling,
legs.
Devin Storm, a bunch of guys that were good, but it was like this guy stood out. He was so damn good, but it was just the timing of it, I think, just sucked on his part, just as far as just the way WWF was at that time. They kind of like
Yeah.
the land of the giants, they like the big guys. And then when it was time to start pushing a lot of the smaller guys, he was almost too big to be a cruiserweight. So if he came out a few years later, or his prime was a few years later, I think he would have been a huge star just because he was so good.
That's like Michael Modest.
Yeah,
Michael
Modest and
yeah,
Donovan Morgan
same
kind
thing.
of fit in that same mold. Yep.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, next match after that was the Bushwhackers, Bushwhacker Luke and Bushwhacker Dutch, defeating Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volk.
Maybe he said that because Butch, obviously is Bushwhacker Bush, but maybe because of Dutch Mantel, maybe he got it confused. Maybe give the guy an excuse.
Yeah, you got to give him a break on that one. But you know what? I'm going to shoot on this real quick, and I'm going to say
Baby
this.
and Nikolai Volkov. No.
Like they kept referring to the Bushwhackers as like from down under and the Australian Bushwhackers.
They're from New Zealand, right?
Yeah, they're from New Zealand, man. Like,
Yeah.
That's offensive to Australians, man. Same with New Zealand. You call them you call a Kiwi like a New Zealand person Australian. Oh man, that's fighting words.
But I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I'm being 100% transparent. I cannot tell the difference. I know you can, Piers, because it's your culture, but
Yeah.
I can't tell the difference from a New Zealander and an Australian. Like I sit there and listen. I'm like, I can't catch it. I can't see the difference or hear the difference. I know there is. I'm just being ignorant. I just don't.
I know
Don't
Piers
know.
is going to say something racist to you right now, Angel. So we'll cut that off. You know what I mean? He's going to
Probably.
say he can't tell the difference. You know the whole thing. You know what he's going to say.
Now I could tell the difference between an Englishman and an Australian. I could just hear it, but it's just when I hear those two.
That's like Canadian and American, right? So most Australians, like if they don't know or don't talk to like Americans and Canadians regularly, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the Canadian.
So wait, what is Toni Storm? Is she Australian or from New Zealand?
I think she's from New Zealand.
Because see, there can be tough where it's tough to figure out. So I know where Angel's coming from there. It can be tough to figure it out sometimes.
Well, I mean, because like I said, in Canada, they say, Hoosier. I mean, about. You know, I mean, there's certain phrases
Boot.
that they say, a boot.
Boot.
Yeah, they say things like you catch it. You know,
Yeah.
but again, it depends on where in Canada. If you go to the beginning of Canada, they're more Americanized in their language. The further up you go into Canada, that's when their fucking accent just kicks in. I guess it's the same thing with Australia, because Piers said his cousin or a friend of his, if you deep in somewhere, you mentioned some guy, you said, dude, you probably won't understand it because the way I didn't even understand your dad, and I understand you. That's the same. I'm not saying he's in the sticks, but I'm just saying it's just.
I speak the Queen's English. That's why.
His dad was like, his dad came on the phone, and I'm like, uh-huh. And then when Piers came out, I was like, dude, what the fuck did he say? I just said a word. I caught a couple things.
Isn't that perfect though for this pay-per-view? The guy can't even figure out if the bushwhackers are Australian or from New Zealand. Isn't that just perfect?
It's just like, but you know what? It just goes to show this guy, like, you know, didn't even
no homework, no research.
Yeah, like if you're a professional, and even if you were like called in an hour before the show, you were going to grab someone and say, right, give me the lowdown, give me the rundown. How does this work? What the fuck's going on? Like, and then like, don't even give him the finish, but like at least tell him a little bit about, so we can talk about whatever's going on in the ring. Like he even called like a wrist lock takedown, fucking back suplex or some shit. And I'm like, what the fuck?
That's one of those things where it almost was like he was like overconfident, right? It was like he was so like ridiculous with it. It's like, dude, you're completely wrong. That's not even close. But he was so overconfident. It was like, is he nuts or is he just like making shit up? He was such an idiot.
He was like, Hulk Hogan's really taking it to the. That's the ring.
Were you offended though that the bushwhackers are actually not Australian? Were you offended by that?
No, I'm not. I'm not at all. It's just it's a friendly banter joke between Australians and New Zealanders going back years. But the bushwhackers.
This is horrible. This match, by the way.
It was like, honestly, man, that was painful to sit through and watch.
But you know what's funny though? I mean, WWE was gonna sue Heroes of Legends because a lot of the fucking talent that they were using was using their real wrestling WWE name, Yokozuna, Bushwhackers. Yep. I forget who else, but they were gonna hit him over the head with lawsuits. But unfortunately, due to the fact that the guy who was running it said, "Dude, I'm done," it went to the shits. The WWE's lawyers just said, "Okay, cool," and they let it go. But they were gonna get hit with the hammer if they were going to continue after. Maybe, bet you if they had another pay-per-view, they would have got hit.
Yeah,
bro.
And then they would have been done.
They were using WWF promo pictures of the Samoans, and they were the wrong fucking Samoans in the picture. Like, that was the worst case of using Windows Vista to do an intro, bro, in the worst fucking possible way.
Commentating is bad. The production is bad. I mean,
it was horrible.
Cluster in the ring was horrible. But like, what a cluster! Holy crap!
What really killed it, man? I mean, to be honest, was really killed it was Jake Roberts. They even cut off the feed because they, after they did the baby Bundy, they called him the baby Bundy ref or whatever the guy was, and he put the snake on him. They cut the feed because they were afraid. Well, they didn't know what Jake was going to do, especially sticking that snake between his legs and all this crap. So they cut it. They cut it real bad, quick.
Well, I guess we'll get to Jake, I guess, in a minute, but that was awful. Holy shit.
The one thing I just want to stop before because we just got to Tully Blanchard versus Stan Lane. But like at the beginning of the show, I forgot to mention this because I fucking popped for this. Every match was a grudge match, tag team grudge match. They were promoting like Yokozuna versus like King Kong Bundy as big man grudge match. Four Horsemen versus blah blah blah, like big time grudge. And I'm like, every single thing was a grudge match. I'm just like, bro, you needed to take a break from the lines of coke for a minute to really like come up with some other fucking lines, because that was shit.
It was like guys that knew nothing about wrestling. Like, what do you call this match? Let's call it a grudge match. Like, you could tell they knew nothing.
We'll call it a tag team grudge match. Yeah, and so the Tully Blanchard defeated Stan Lane. Now, I've been a huge fan of the Four Horsemen, as I'm sure we all have been, and I really enjoy watching Tully Blanchard.
Well,
he's
good.
Sorry, I was just going to say his promo where he gets jumped by Stan Lane, and he's like, I don't do this for a living anymore, and I don't really care. I just got beaten up, and now I have that same fire and desire that I had when I faced Dusty Rhodes, and I'm just like, huh? Like, that was pretty quick.
I mean, I'll be honest, man. I just think they just didn't take control of the wrestlers. I think that they let the wrestlers walk all over them, and basically they just used them for a payday. I think if they were really like really on them and like, yo, dude, you need to cut a good promo. You're not getting paid if you know what I mean? Like really, because Tully Blanchard is an excellent, promorist. He could store the promo. Stan Lane, awesome. So I think he just like didn't give two fucks, and he just cut it. Just go out there, just go out there, and just say whatever. They didn't take control. They didn't have the right to say, hey, you need to say this. They're gonna jump you. You got to really, make them believe. They just say, hey, just go out there, just flow. And I think that's what went to the shits. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, and both kind of not really full time at this point at all. Lane and Blanchard, both out of their prime a bit too. So you gotta, I love those guys in their prime. Two of the best easily. Even Blanchard on AEW cuts awesome promos. So I don't know. Everybody seemed a little out of it, not caring, weren't really into it. Seemed like.
Yeah, man. If you're not in there in the game, I'm sorry, Piers. If you're not in the game for a while, just like any sport. Yeah, you were good, but if you're not like me, like right now, I got to wrestle in February, and I'm like, I haven't been in the ring in 2 years. I know it's going to be a rusty match, but now they're going to put us in a 3-man tag team, 6-man tag team. Because I'm like, I don't have the confidence because I'm not always wrestling. If I was, I'd be like Billy Gunn, just on my own point, because he's wrestling all the time. He's sharp. Go ahead, Pierce. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all right. But I was quite disappointed with the Tully promo and even the match itself. Like, I kind of felt that this whole show is like one of those convention signings that just got turned into an actual match. Like, hey, we got a ring. Everyone go out there and wrestle and do whatever the fuck you want. And like, again, a show that's been put together by someone who's probably who doesn't know the business or is just a money mark going, fuck yeah, let's reach out to this person, let's get this person, and not focusing on like, okay, production, commentary, making sure that talent is being coordinated properly, making sure talent are clean and sober.
Gimmicks.
Nobody cared.
Love gimmicks.
No fucks were given. But even Abdullah the Butcher, he went up against One Man Gang in a double count out so match. Jimmy Snuka with Captain Lou Albano defeated Bob Orton Jr.
See, all these guys are like so far out of their prime, but if this was like 80s and these matches were happening, you'd be like, holy shit, this is awesome. And it probably would be a great pay-per-view. But 1999,
how was Snuka then?
Oh, he would have been like fucking
50s, right?
No, I gotta look it up.
He would have been 60s easily, I reckon. Is it?
Yeah, because
he's 50s, right?
I bet you he's in his 50s. I bet you he's gonna be
late 50s.
Like
yeah,
he would have been 50s.
He probably wouldn't have been in his 50s because when I was wrestling with him, he was probably like, in his 50s, 48.
He was still wrestling a lot of indies at this point. I remember WCW showed up and he wrestled Jeff Jarrett, gave him a concussion pretty good, but he was still kind of active at this point, which is crazy to think because he would still try to do the top rope and sometimes second rope dive. But he's old, out of shape, beat up at this point. You're not getting prime 1983 Jimmy Superfly Snuka here. You know what I mean?
Was Metal Maniac chatting with him?
Probably. Did I mention that to you? Oh, I think I did off air. That Metal Maniac is a part of some Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Dude, I'm not knocking him. I like him. But what's funny though? Metal Maniac, when I used to, again, when I was beginning wrestling, I still don't smoke, but I took care of myself, which I still do. I ate right. And I'm getting dressed in the locker room, putting on my boots, putting on my tape, and I look, and he's there with his gut hanging out, smoking a cigarette. Just like, and I'm like, and then he's blowing up in the ring. I'm like, Jesus Christ, bro, you need to cut the stogies, man, the smoke. But it's just
the main event of the evening was two matches that got put together because it was originally supposed to be Jake Roberts versus Jim Neidhart and Yokozuna versus King Kong Bundy. Jake Roberts, who is probably known as being one of the greatest promos in the history of the business, goes out and cuts probably one of the most abysmal fucking things I've ever seen. Like, so fucking drunk out of his brain, like it wasn't even hiding it on whatever the fuck that he was also squirting up his arm. Talking about, like, I'm going to cheat to win. You've got 21, I've got 22. Well, that's a bust, champ. Like, you know what I mean? Like, aces and eights, I've got a few of them. You know, like, just.
Yeah, you want to play blackjack? I've got it too. Like, what does that even mean? Horrible promo. Well, but Angels, but you would know this. Shouldn't the guys in the back or the guys running it not even let him out there? It's like that. Remember when Scott Hall and they had the thing on ESPN and they were showing him? Why even let the guy out there? Oh, because the crowd paid to see Jake the Snake, but you can't let him talk, right? Or do anything.
John.
That I don't know, man. I mean, it's very hard to tell somebody what to do, man. And everybody's more concerned about themselves and their payday and stuff like that. I mean, when I watched it, I'm like, oh my god! Like I said, it was, and I hate bringing it up, but like you said, the Scott Hall, the Just Incredible situation in Massachusetts, in Boston or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, I love PJ, I love all those guys, but it's just when you see it, you're like, oh my god, man. I mean, why would you let somebody go out there? I mean, you got to do it. Just pay them, man, and just say, hey, man, out of respect for you, we just don't want the fans to see you in this condition. You know, I mean, that's just how I look at it. If I was gimmicked up and stuff like that and I couldn't perform, yeah, please respect, you know, if you respect me enough to as a talent, then you should respect, you know, what people will perceive of me when I walk through the curtain. So please don't put me out there. I know I did it to myself, but, you know, protect me, you know, if that's the case.
Yeah, but we're talking slimeball indie promoters that are trying to make a quick, pardon me, a couple of thousand off an event. They're probably just going, oh, fuck, what do we do? How do we protect this? I know, we'll make it a tag team match. And that's what it felt. That's exactly how it felt. You know, Jake coming out, like, was clearly intoxicated. You know, when I saw King Kong Bundy come out, it makes me wonder if that decision was called on the fly, like for Bundy just to come out and sort of get the communication, hey, this is what's going to happen.
Yep.
Yoko's coming out next.
Yep, definitely. They definitely had to change it on the fly because they obviously noticed something, even though they let him out there and cut a promo and let female fans touch him and grope him, whatever the hell else he was doing
That
out
was
there.
rough.
Yeah, that was like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? So then obviously they're like, okay, Bundy, Yoko, get out there. We'll make it a tag match because obviously Jay can't have a one-on-one match with Neidhart here. But man, what a cluster to add to everything, the horrible commentary, the horrible production. Bushwhackers and Iron Sheik versus Bushwhackers versus Sheik and Volkov's one of the worst matches ever. Put all that aside, this is worse. I mean, this was just embarrassing. It was so bad for Jake the Snake.
Like, as a human though, like, you look back at it and would be like, fuck, like, how ashamed of yourself would you be watching that? And like, when he's got the fucking snake and he's like stimulating masturbation, I'm like, there's fucking kids in the audience, man. Like, at that point, they should have just had King Kong Bundy come out, grab him, say, match is being thrown out, brother. Like,
but you know what's funny? Neidhart didn't want to put him over because originally it was supposed to be Jake winning over Neidhart, but apparently Neidhart had some type of deal with WWE and he didn't want to get squashed for that reason, and that's why Jake decided, which I don't, in his most coherent state, decided to take the pin from Bundy. So it was a cluster from the beginning because it was just horrible. But apparently, Neidhart just didn't want to take the pin. You know, what do you think, John? What would you think he didn't want to take a pin?
I wouldn't want to take it either. He probably saw the condition Jake was in. But I know he had just left WCW. Maybe he's trying to get back with WWF. Maybe he didn't want to lose on pay-per-view. But he probably saw the condition Jake was in. I'm like, I'm not losing to this guy. Fuck that.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? And that's the thing. And, you know, and you just hit it on the nose. It just hit me right now because knowing if he's having a negotiated deal with WWE at the time or WWF and he's going back, and if he puts Jake over in that state, that, you know, I know knowing Vince, but like, why'd you let him put him over like that? It made you look weak. Yeah. I mean, because Jake wasn't even strong in the ring, and he looked horrible. It just made you look smaller. We can't use you. That's Vince was like that, and
but
still
was
is.
Signed to WWF in '99? I know Bulldog was, but I don't think Anvil was.
I think he wanted to come back with Bulldog, but it wasn't. They didn't bring him back. I don't think they had anything for him. But they both were in WCW. They both left, and I think Neidhart thought he was headed back because Bulldog was headed back and got a nice little prominent role, but they didn't bring Jim back.
Yeah, but it's the fact that Jake was out there in that state, and they did have to do that. They did change it on the fly. Overall, like, how would you rate this match this card out of 10? Angel?
What? How do you rate it?
Let's give it a rating. Let's give it a rating.
If I would give it a rating, it would be an Arctic rating. It would be negative. I mean, besides Julio Dinero, I mean, Fantastico and Tuco Scorpio, which is it's an awesome match. I mean, they did the best they could. I mean, I'm not saying it was horrible. It was great. They did the best they could on the card. With them, I give them an 8. But for the entirety of the whole production of the show, the presentation, the Jake Roberts situation, I'm not gonna lie to you. I give it. I'm gonna be generous. I give it a 2. That's me being generous out of respect. That's sad.
I'd give it a 1 out of 10. Actually, maybe a 2, just because of Scorpio and Julio Fantastico, because that was a good match. But man, that's a tough 2, because I feel like giving it a 1, it was so bad. And the fact that Jake the Snake is like disrobing, and he's going to get naked to end the show, it's just like, holy Christ, what the fuck? I mean, and it's funny, that might not even be the worst match. The Bushwhacker match might have been worse, but it was so bad. What an embarrassment.
Piers, before you say your mind, but I'm surprised that there was no lawsuit from the fans due to the fact that there was kids in the audience and he was exposing himself and doing things that they was going to try to sue that company for that stuff. I just even attempt to. I just never heard anything about it. Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, just everybody's money hungry, no matter what time it is.
Look, I thought the show wasn't that bad overall. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. I'm kidding. I'm fucking with you. Look, up until I saw the Julio Scorpio match, I gave it a 2. But after near the ending at the main event with Jake, like simulating masturbation with a snake and like grabbing female audience members, I'm going to take 1 point away for that. So I give it a 1.
Ouch.
Yeah,
and that's no disrespect to Julio and to Tuchel. That was an amazing match, but unfortunately, at the end of the show, it outshone everything that they did in a negative way.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't know, dude. It's just really, really hard, and to even. Man, there's nothing positive about it. There's nothing positive about it to even give it a higher rating. That's the sad part. That is the sad part.
What about It's So Bad It's Good? No, that doesn't apply here.
It's not a John Cougar Mellencamp song, brother. Hurt so good, baby. No.
So good. Yeah,
you know what? I know we've done a case on Jake Roberts before, but can we do another one, Angel and John? I think it would be really good to cover again.
I mean, we could do another Jake Roberts segment. I mean, especially now that he's clean and I mean, now that he got COPD and he just recently caught COVID. So, like I said, I mean, it is a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a winner. It does no, not a hot topic. It's somebody who overcame.
He overcame the odds.
Adversity.
Yeah. Yeah, that he overcame some stuff. So I appreciate. We could do it. I mean, I have no problem.
All the DDP yoga, bro. Bang.
Yeah, monkey.
DDP Snake Pit. They got their new show, DDP and Jake.
They do?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just
yep.
Oh, man, whatever, man. It's just like, it's whatever. DDP's okay.
But guys, it is time.
Yeah. I was gonna say it is time. No, I was going to
say it is time for us to ride off into the sunset. Angel, you want to take it away with our first sponsor?
All right. My McConaughey right here. Definitely check out sleeves.com. Definitely one of the greatest websites for me But again, if you check them out, it will be for you. Go to sleeves.com, use promo code MWAPOD for 10% off. It has all your sports needs. Definitely check them out. From the arm sleeves are very, very classic. They have a lot of varieties. But again, check out the dirty boxes. That's the caveat of the whole website. I love it. That's the first thing I do when I get on the website is look at those dirty boxes to see the latest and greatest. But again, use promo code MWAPOD to get 10% off. You would not regret it.
Bang. And check out healthvape.com, ladies and gentlemen, for your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and they are vitamin infused. So, guys, check out some of their Vape and Pod products. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount. It helps the show out, and it helps you out because you're getting a healthier, vapier experience. And you got to get a 10% discount. Hey, man, it's just about to turn 3 a.m. in the morning here, so cut me some slack.
Absolutely.
But check out healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase.
Absolutely. And also, I want to apologize to everybody. I know you guys were noticing me looking down, but I have a sick kid, so I'm just like texting her on the computer, because she does have possibly hypothetically COVID. He's still running those tests, but just want to make sure she's okay, but she's whining, so that's why I'm always like doing that for right now. But again, final thoughts.
Piers.
Pause. Piers. Okay. Final thoughts. I pretty much think I've said everything that my piece on this one, but I just reiterate, I think that this was run by either a money mark or someone who wasn't even paying attention to the finer details that needed to be, like production, and obviously on front of camera people that can keep the show flowing. Putting Jake the Snake Roberts in front of that camera, like, I know you probably wanted to get your money's worth from him, but like at the end of the day, that was a massive backfail. And there were a few matches that were average on the card, but that even the good match that you had there, the match of the night, was shadowed by what Jake did in the main event. So, man, it's just a pity, but it was just one of those things, man. It was just a thing for some of the old timers to get in there and do their thing and make a bit of money. Cool, I hope they got paid well.
All right.
John?
Pretty much everything Piers said. But if you want to watch a really bad pay-per-view, if you want to just enjoy just horribleness, or however you want to say, just shit, watch this pay-per-view and really enjoy how bad it was, because it's pretty damn terrible and arguably the worst pay-per-view of all time in wrestling history.
Shit.
Well, I mean, I'm going to put it in this type of category. If you saw a Toxic Avenger and you thought it was the shits, if you thought Human Centipede was the drizzling shits, and if you thought Attack of the Killer Tomatoes was the drizzling shits, then I put this in the same category. I mean, this is just the Mount Rushmore of crap, But like I said, if you want to see a train wreck, you want to see something that's just so you can scrutinize, you could nitpick and just laugh your ass off and just say whatever you want to say about this pay-per-view, then check it out. It's worth it. But be honest, it was the most disgraceful, the most below my standards of any type of promotion I ever been to or seen. I just think, oh my God, it is there as the worst pay-per-view ever and will always hold up unless Piers does his own show, and then it will just catapult to the top of the charts. But again, it was the most horrible pay-per-view in my perspective.
And it actually gave a feeling like the show was based in happened in the 80s. Like when I was watching the production of it, I was like, this has a very 80s feel to it,
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was just, ooh.
They got the same guys that did WrestleMania 1 maybe that hadn't fucking developed. But anyway, guys, it is time for us to ride off into the sunset. Gentlemen, have a lovely day for you guys, evening for me. But guys, you can check us out on the Russo's brand. Check out Wrestling with Tragedy at patreon.com/RussoTWC and Channel Attitude, russosbrand.com, channelattitude.com. Until next time, we'll see you again very, very soon. Peace out, guys.
Right on, right on, right on.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.